Well, good morning, everyone, and a hearty welcome to all IAL members and visitors to the very first IAL membership show virtual reception. I am Kurt Rabondo, co-chair of the show with Carol Romanowski, who you will meet shortly. Thank you so much for being here, and a special thanks to all those who entered for showcasing your artistic works at the Time Gallery in East Peoria and on today's presentation. We were excited to have 41 participants and a total of 98 works. For purposes of judging, the committee deemed it appropriate to combine the photographs of all divisions and categories into a single grouping, and likewise for the 3D works. And also in the amateur division, the underglass and not underglass were also combined into a single grouping. I just wanted you to understand that. The entries and winners are all very nicely laid out in this beautiful brochure, which was put together by Carol and Tom Romanowski. Tom, if you are listening in, thank you very much for your ad hoc participation in our organization. We greatly appreciate the work. At this time, I'd also like to acknowledge some other very key players in putting together the show, particularly and most notably Dawn Maloney for her expertise in setting up the gallery, for her masterful eye in the placement of the hangings, for making all the beautiful signage, which is on display at the gallery, and for the very artistic cards that she sent out to the winners with their award checks. Yes, I did get one. Thank you very much. That was a really nice touch, Dawn. A special thanks to Crystal Potoff for her numerous communications in keeping everyone informed of the details of this ever-changing show. Crystal, I think I received like 40 emails from you just as reminders of today's program. So thank you very much for all your extra effort. We'd like to extend a special thanks to Ruth Inman for putting together the wonderful slideshow that you were able to witness prior to this program, and which I believe will be rerun later. And Ruth, thank you also for organizing and hosting today's virtual reception on Zoom. Thanks to Julie Dodge for her professional photography of the awarded works that will be highlighted in today's presentation. Barb Eunice, we really appreciate your stopping by at the Time Gallery on the day of drop-off, and for your care in transporting all the valuable works from the entrance vehicles up to the gallery itself. And last but not least, I would like to offer special thanks to Barbie Perry. I hope you're on today, for all the support and confidence that she gave to Carol and me to enable us to do what we needed to do to transition to this year's platform. So thank you, Barbie. There are probably many other behind the scenes players who I have not mentioned specifically, and a big hearty thanks to you as well. We are so fortunate this year to have procured the talents of a very highly recognized member of the Peoria arts community to jury the 2020 membership show. I'm honored to welcome and introduce Kristen McKenzie. Kristen holds a BA degree in art history, an MA in early American culture, and began her 32-year career as a museum curator at the St. Louis Art Museum, and later serving as curator of collections at the Evanston Historical Society. Kristen has been involved with the arts in Central Illinois for the past 24 years in connection with the Lakeview Museum and its successor, the Peoria Riverfront Museum, where she was the founding curator until 2016. After retiring from that position, she became director of the Illinois Women Artists Project in the Department of Art and Design at Bradley University, where she continues to this day and where she also has been adjunct instructor of art history. Kristen has also served on the Peoria Civic Center Fine Art Commission and the Peoria Public Library's Community Relations Committee. She is in her 4th term on the Board of Arts Partners of Central Illinois, serving as president since 2017, and is currently president of the Fine Art Society of Peoria. With that, I would like to welcome Kristen McKenzie.
Thank you, Kurt.
You're welcome.
Is it time for me to do my presentation?
It is.
Okay, then let's let me first say thank you so much for the invitation to be the judge. It was really great to see live art in person. Haven't had enough of that in the last 5 months. So that was really exciting and wonderful. Great to see you and Carol too. And really fun to see what the artists are doing. And I was introduced to several artists I did not previously know. So it was fun. And it's always an interesting experience to judge an exhibit. So much good competition, so much good quality efforts, and it's sometimes very hard to make decisions, but we did. So let me share the screen, and there it goes. Is that working? Okay, good. Well, again, thank you very much. So let me pull up my notes. I should have done that earlier. Okay, now this doesn't want to work. We'll do it this way. So what I will do is, and if you can't see enough of what I have on the screen, you can minimize your pictures up at the probably the top right corner. You can hide your thumbnails if you want to. So what I thought I would do is just go through and say a few comments of why I made the decisions that I did. And this was one of the most timely works, and I was really pleased to see it. This is Linda Cherry's Black Lives Do Matter. But I really love the conversational, the engaging qualities that she used. I feel like, I love that it's an action shot. It's the people painting the Black Lives Matter words on the street in Washington, D.C., and I like the fact that it's not just showing it, but it's showing it in process. It's happening, and that it's real people making it happen. I really like the composition leading up to the Capitol building there, drawing us in. I like that the action is real close to the picture playing, that we could just step right in and help. And her balance of color I thought was really good. Plus, I really liked the way she used the watercolor. Nice saturation, but yet a good sense of light and shadow. So that was really fun to see. That doesn't work. Okay, Hendricks Lane by Darlene Jones. I love the perspective on this work. I love the fact that we have the edges cut off, you know, where the tree comes right to the one edge and the house on the other side. We don't see the full house, but we know what the rest of it looks like. I like the perspective. Again, it's drawing us in by being on the diagonal there. Really nice contrasts of the light and dark, and we get the sense of shadow and bright light as well. Such a neat and tidy work, just really inviting. It's very actually serene, I felt. It's very evocative, the way we just kind of know what's there, and I almost feel like I can hear the birds singing and that kind of thing. Really cleanly, neatly done. And first place in Amateur Not Under Glass is Kurt Ribondo's After the Storm. This is such a striking image, in part because he has no background, just the black background behind the bird sets it off so dramatically. And then the other aspect of the composition being offset. Again, we just see the bird coming at us, this dramatic beak. It's just so shocking and exciting and dramatic. I also love the way he did the feathers, caught the featheration, and it seems so ruffled. Again, it must have been ruffled by the storm, a little dazed perhaps, a little confused of what it's supposed to do. It's really just very engaging. It really suggests a story because all we see is this bird coming into our view, and it's like, what's happened? What's going on? What's going to happen next? I just found it very compelling. Very striking and dramatic. Moving on to the semi-pro Not Under Glass, an honorable mention to Ruth Inman for Fallen Petals. This is a collage work, painting and collage, mixed media. The addition of the words, the newspaper and print material in the background was evocative. It gave another layer of meaning and another layer literally to it. And then when you can see the piece in person, you'll see there's three-dimensionality. Here in the middle, this petal is very three-dimensional. And so there was a sense of whimsy here, but also it's just so bright and cheerful. And really fun, really fun. Peggy West, Hope Springs Eternal. Again, she does a wonderful job with layering. Her choice of words, the dictionary page, is relevant. When you look at it, you see that there were careful choices made. And if you notice the butterfly here that is cut out of printed material, again, that's three-dimensional, which gave just another bit of intrigue, of interest to the work and made it fun. There's always an elegance to Peggy's work that shows up here as well. A sense of timelessness, but also a sense of relevance at the same time. So, Ruth Inman's First Love. Now, this piece again, and again, you need to see it in person to get a sense of the full sense of texture that she does. I really love the variety of textures, some of which seem arbitrary. The drips of paint, for instance, that was chance, but then the very carefully thought out, placed, more geometric elements of the texture. I don't know if this was bubble wrap, the crisscross lines here, the various dots around. It made it very dramatic. It made it very interesting. It gave it a great sense of depth that was fun despite the abstract qualities. Again, her color placement I find very satisfying. And again, the sense of arbitrariness and balance that comes through that. It was just a very interesting combination of precision and chance working together. The bright colors, it's energizing, it's exciting, made me want to see more. And on a very different note, a very serene note, is this I'm not sure, Flowers of Tuscany. It may have been Flavors. I see that in my note. I'm sorry, Roberta. Beautiful technique here, beautifully rendered, the paint applied so artfully, skillfully. Great sense of the light with the shading on your two. Nice contrast of the textures between the fruit, the ceramics, and then the leaves up there. The light is subtle. It's a low light, very serene. And I thought that the framing choices really set the work off beautifully as well. It's a lovely balanced composition, very good perspective treatment. And I like the softness, the impressionism of it as well. Wonderful modeling of colors to create wonderful effects. Moving on to semi-pro underglass, I thought what really caught my eye here with Candy's Sunset Beach is the reflection of the moon. I mean, this wonderful, brilliant, the sun setting, the wonderful sort of aura of it shining beyond itself, but then the way it's reflecting in the water is very masterful and very exciting. The composition I liked. We have a nice balance of foreground and background before we get to the horizon line, and then nicely balanced by the sky. And I really like um, the sense of movement, naturalness, really, to the trees, to the palm trees. Wonderfully, sort of a sketchy rendition, but we know exactly what they are. And again, it's just a very suggestive qualities of line there that are very effective. Not a lot of detail, but just enough to give us an idea of the topography. Very, very pleasing. Again, I like kind of how the trees kind of are not at the edge. They kind of block our view, yet we see past them, and it's nice. It's just really nice composition. Okay. Oh, flowers in the moon. Here's our moon. Another cheery, very bright work. Interesting to see the flowers so brightly lit in the lower part of the work, and yet we have the dark sky above, the night sky, with the sense of stars and with the sense of movement going on. And a very nice transition zone then in the middle with that sort of, the red tones and purple tones there, sort of dividing the two halves. Butterflies are uniting it by flitting about. The choice of colors is wonderful. There's a story there. Strong focal point in the moon draws us in, but a good sense of balance of the light and the dark with the moon off center. Just very cheery and whimsical and delightful. Made me smile. This is another one that obviously a fair amount of chance went onto this, but what a great balance of light and dark. What a great balance of the large forms and the smaller forms, sort of settling down, rooting it nicely at the bottom portion of the composition. You feel like we are looking out into space, but you're not going to fall into it. You're not going to be dissolved by it. You're sort of grounded and comfortable. So the sense of depth and movement that I really liked. And I thought that the placement of color had a lot of impact. Those are gold tones, gold patches throughout as highlights that I think do a lot to give that sense of depth and to draw us in just the right way. So congratulations on that. Moving on to the photography. One of the things you can't tell by my slides here that anything about the scale of the works, but this is a very tall, slender piece. And of course, the size is perfect for the subject matter. It's nice to keep it tight. It's nice to keep it close in. I love the fact that he photographed the utility poles in the fog. I like that we can't quite see them receding back, yet we know that they do. It just was the right effect. I think much more powerful than a bright sunny day would have been. Interesting perspective. Again, a sense of movement as the the poles is moving around, is curving around. We're not seeing it straight on. The set closest to us are a little off center. So it's a nice, strong balance. The trees give a sense of proportion of scale for the poles themselves, although, as I said, we don't know really the size of the photograph itself, but it is very tall and I think very appropriate. It sort of emphasized the height and power of these very utilitarian items, which I think the fog also kind of makes them elegant. shrouding them that way gives them a mystery and that sort of thing. I really do think it transforms them from simple utility into something that we want to explore. I feel like I could walk in. I might want to walk in and go down and see what I will find. Alien, again, is another printed large format, which is really exciting. So this small insect is made very large right in front of us. Wonderful juxtapositions with the insect on these twigs to see how the legs of the insect and the twigs are so closely related in size and form and shape, and the angles are just so good. A surprise and kind of interesting that we're seeing the insect from its bottom as well, not from the top or the side. I really liked that.
Yeah.
I think the perspective is really compelling.
Yeah, I'm listening this. We have Zoom meeting going on, and then the
Okay, we can hear you too.
art show which is going on in the Peoria.
The limited color palette is wonderful too. The green with a very similar green background against the brown, I thought was very pleasing and compelling. Hinges. You've probably figured out by now that I really like balance that is off center and that is asymmetrical. Again, the composition here, very tight in focus on these hinges. So we don't see the full, I assume it's a barn. We don't see the full side of the barn. We don't see a full door. But we get a good sense of that from these wonderful details he showed us. We really get a nice clean look at the wood and at the metal and how they've weathered. Love the raking light, the time of day with these very strong dramatic shadows and pulling out the texture of the weathered wood. Just really, really exciting and dynamic, I feel. I really, really enjoyed that. Let's see, the contrast of light and shadow. Good job with, the vertical lines are very true to what we're seeing, and I think that gives it a power and a balance. There's a real sense of time here, of the passage of time, the perseverance of material, the durability of this form, I think comes across in this work. Very pleasing. And in first place, Diamonds in Storm. This one was a bit, well, it drew me in because it was hard to understand at first really what was going on. And there's a dramatic composition between the blue ice, that pale blue, and then the rest of the image being basically black and white. So it really makes the blue ice elements stand out. Also, then the contrast between the rushing water just really dashing past me, and then the completely stable, unmoving permanency of that ice, which of course ice would not be permanent. So this powerful juxtaposition of movement and stillness. It's a very immediate composition. We're there. We're going to get wet. We're going to get drawn away by the water if we're not careful. Yet it's a wonderfully wide and deep scene, and it is printed large, which is really very appropriate. That added to the sense of vastness. You really needed that size of the whole image to sort of understand the power of the scene that we were looking at. This was very expected, surprising, and made me look to really understand what was going on. Storm on the Horizon, moving to professional under glass. This is a work in pastel. It's relatively large for pastel, and so that was powerful. And also just such a masterful use of the pastel technique here to get such great variations in color and even sense of texture. a lot of detail and time obviously went into this. I like the emphasis on the sky above the horizon line, really emphasizing how big this storm is, how powerful it's going to be, how dark the sky is, that kind of thing. The actual, you almost feel the clouds are roiling right there in front of you and growing. Just a wonderful variation of the grays in the clouds from white to black. Very commendable. Oh, that worked. Lori Lee Sampson's Fruitful Habitat. I do love the way that the image spills out of the image plane, of the picture plane. Above the top and at the bottom, it spills out. That's always great fun. Gives it a wonderful immediacy. I love the contrast between the grapes and then I guess they're robin's eggs, both oval, round shapes, similar in color, but very different in texture. The one is more shiny, the other is more matte, and she really achieves that very, very well. And then the contrast between the leaves and the nest is also very effective. There is a great sense of movement and naturalness to this work, partly the way it overflows the image plane, and I like that. The background is very effective. She's kept it tight, but given us some detail in the background at the same time. So it's very believable, very naturalistic. The treatment of the leaves, I really was impressed by the use of color variation to give us a sense of both the texture of the leaves, but also they're not flat. They have the light, they can pick up the light in a very naturalistic way as they've been rendered. This is watercolor and India ink. So very, very good modeling. Now that worked. And Kathy Roth's Let's Get Happy. It makes you happy. All of these, the emphasis on primary colors I think is good. It kept the sense of colors very tight. So it seemed, it gave it a grounding, I think, by focusing predominantly on the primary colors. There's lots of layering to it as well, which gave it sort of a sense of depth. And then this overdrawing with that light color, sort of a cream, not quite a white color, also gave a nice contrast between sort of the blocks of color in the background and then these light, delicate traceries in the front that have a lot of movement, a lot of whimsy to them. There is a wonderful sense of balance and composition in it. The size and format was very satisfying and effective. The layering is effective. It just was a lot of fun to look at, and it's something that you sort of feel like you could keep looking at for a long time. You might see more new things as time goes by. This piece you have to go see to understand. I only have the one, I didn't pick it up, so I only have the one image, but there are photos front and back. And I love the conceit of this box, this wooden box that has two doors in front on hinges that open. And so it's very much like you're opening the front doors of the church and walking in. And then the back side would be the exterior of the church. So it was a wonderful way to take one subject matter, this church, and give us a lot of views at once that sort of mirrored the experience of being there as well. That was a lot of fun. And I thought as I said, a very clever conceit. And very well photographed. Also sort of, it's a very, each view is sort of exactly what you feel like you would see easily as a person in that space. This Farm Parade by Lori Lee Sampson. Again, good choice of perspective of using a landscape format to emphasize the width of the view. One of the things that struck me here, it can be hard to accurately depict anything in white, I think. And to depict three different things in white effectively is quite admirable. So we have the snow, we have the geese feathers, and then we have the cow's fur, all in white. You feel very cold looking at that, and I think you can see even here that she's also given us a sense that the snow is still falling down on us as we look at this. So fun, whimsy, a bit of a story. A lot of these did make me want to make up a story, and this was certainly one of them. It's like, oh, there's a tale we could tell here. So Sherry Burrett's Cafe, here, again, another sense of a story. You see people defined there, but not delineated clearly enough that you can really see distinct features, but enough that you sort of could imagine the buzz of conversation, and you could imagine sitting down there. It's a nice tight composition. Background doesn't go too far. You're just there a couple more steps, and we could sit down and order a glass of wine or a baguette and some cheese or something like that. I like the limited palette very much. The red sort of gives it a grounding. The yellows and orange of the buildings, I feel, are reflecting the sunlight very nicely. So I even get a sense of the temperature. But it doesn't take me too far. It keeps me very focused on the cafe itself and what's happening there. There's a serenity to it, just a really good atmosphere, and enough of the architecture to get a sense of what the whole, it's probably a square, it might be the end of a street, we're not sure, but we can come up with what the rest of it probably looks like. She's given us enough details there, but still enough for our imagination. And Sharon Summers' Spring Retreat, she has two works, and this is a batik watercolor process, she called it, something I'm not familiar with, and I didn't, it was very intriguing. It's a very intriguing technique. It's almost three-dimensional. It gives a very busy effect, but I felt for this particular work, the technique was suggestive to me of the texture of leaves and flower petals that I was seeing. So I thought it was really appropriate and kind of emphasized the plant-like qualities of the scene. And it was just delightful, as I said, and very intriguing. I think the complexity of the composition it has quite a bit of foreground, middle ground, and background. I thought that worked for this technique. It needed something that had a lot going on in the image itself to work. The winding path is great, taking us up that little slope back into the partly shaded lawn area where these two women are chatting, really drove our eye back. And then I loved that the work kept going. I loved that in this case, it opens up into sort of infinity. There's a narrative here that we can really understand. It's a very lively work and a very lively technique. And I thought very effective, and again, a very good format for the subject. This, of course, another tight work. The surprising thing here to me was the addition of this very tall element in the front left. And I'm not quite sure if it's a candlestick or what it is. But it was slightly surprising to me. In a still life such as this, I might have expected everything to be fitting into a smaller space. But this lifts it up, makes it a bigger, makes it a little grander. The teacup hanging suspended there in the leaves, again, a little bit surprising, but very successful. We have a very strong diagonal created from the top of our probably brass element down through the suspended teacup down to the pot and creamer and sugar bowl. I like that there's a distinct background, distinct in the sense that it cuts off the space. We know right where everything ends. I think that's an interesting contrast. It focuses, it forces us to focus purely on these elements right directly in front of us. Lovely, lovely technique of creating the sense of the shiny porcelain. The books themselves are a more matte texture, and then the brass quality is again different. So this ability to achieve differences of surface and difference of material is very successful here. I like the elegance of the background, and then again, good choices of colors. So that's how I picked that. And I picked Mandy Rowing's Bend in the Road as the best of show this year. It's beautifully rendered, just excellent technique, excellent choice of colors, I felt, and superb qualities of light and shadow. We get extreme shadow into extremely bright light, nice composition, with basically the pond taking up a third of the canvas space, the land about a third, and then what would be above the horizon line back into the depths of the forest being the final third. Yet there's a lot of variation of things carrying our eye through. The shadow of the tree bringing our eye up to the tree in the front middle ground. I love the lavender color of the road going back there. And just the dappling of the light, the dappling of the plant material. This is pastel, and she's very masterful in applying the layers of the pastel. The way she's applied it when you see it in person really support your sense of the image. The reflections in the pond are vertical, but then the highlights of light are horizontal, and that contrast helps to, I think, delineate different elements in it. Color choices, as I said, very effective. And I really feel like the viewer can hear the birds and insects humming. We can sense that the light is just where it is for a second. It's about to change as the sun moves in the sky, and the breeze will come up and that kind of thing. It's very elegant, very serene, very beautifully rendered, very, very effective, yet impressionistic at the same time. So before I turn the screen over, I'm going to take advantage of having the microphone, as it were, to encourage you to continue to enjoy art in a safe way by experiencing the 2020 Arts Partners Sculpture Walk Peoria. You can go online, you can drive down to Washington Street and see the works yourself. You can go online to get material you could print out from the Arts Partners website, artspartners.net, as you see in the upper left. You can also on the website get the tour. John and Jeff Heinzman taped tours of their docent presentation for each sculpture. And that's available on the website as a video you can listen to. You can also go to AutoCast here in the lower right corner. It's an app you can download onto your device and go to Peoria, and then you'll get Sculpture Walk, and you will hear taped information about each sculpture. These will be up until, they went up in June, late June, a little later than planned, but we were social distancing and quarantining. These will be up at least until next April. Some of them we hope will stay for an additional year. So go enjoy Sculpture Walk at home and in person. And then also, I want to invite you to the Fine Arts Society's season preview on September 10th. This will be virtual, just as we're doing today. You'll be able to get a link from the fineartssociety.net website or our Facebook page. The first 3 lectures will definitely be Zoom. On the first Thursday of October, Alexander Marr, the curator of Native American art at the St. Louis Art Museum, will talk about Diné culture, old and new. You see a rug, a textile there, and then a more contemporary photograph. In November, Dr. Nancy Siegel from Towson University will talk about the Hudson River Valley painters with a special emphasis on women painters. This will be new to most of us, who were working alongside their brothers, husbands, and other male counterparts. And then in December, Jamie Allen from the George Eastman Museum in Rochester, New York, will speak about photography of America's national parks. Our theme this year is art and the environment. So I wanted to invite you to the free event on September 10th, and we may well offer these three lectures I've just mentioned. We may well offer them free as well. They will definitely be on Zoom efforts. So thank you very much for inviting me to participate with your project this year, and congratulations to all of the artists in the 2020 show. So Ruth, do you want to take it back?
Hi, I'm Carol Romanowski, and Kristen, we definitely want to thank you for sharing with us your reasons for choosing these pieces of art to honor. I enjoyed hearing so much what drew you in and what excited you about these.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have one more award to present, and for that I'm going to turn the program over to Candy Curtis, our Illinois Art League president. So Candy, if you'd like to present that award.
Hi, everybody. Yes, I would like to present the Joanne Bell Award. Joanne was a local artist. She was from Washington. She was a member of the Washington, Illinois Art Club. When they disbanded, they had asked the Illinois Art League, because she had been a member of both organizations, to create a Joanne Bell Award in her honor, and we were happy to do so. Joanne was a great teacher of watercolor. She loved watercolor. She taught in local schools. During her time in the Illinois Art League, she was a member of the board. She did the members show. She was just a very good and nice woman, watercolors. But on behalf of the Illinois Art League, and in keeping in mind of the ideas of Joanne Bell, I would like to offer this year's Joanne Bell Award to Kathy Sherman. Kathy is a fellow artist who shares in Joanne's ideas and is an advocate for watercolor painting and teaching and sharing her love of watercolor. So congratulations, Kathy Sherman. I would like to thank everybody who was involved in putting together this year's member show and this virtual reception. You've all done a wonderful job, especially during these times that we're in right now and not being able to do anything in person. So I commend you all for your efforts. Thank you. This will be the end of our presentation for today. The slideshow that you saw at the beginning that Ruth put together will continue on a loop as we close out, in case you missed part of the artworks. Thank you all, and thanks for a great year and a great member show.